Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to turn the doilies that I showed you in a previous video. I'm going to show you how to mount these doilies. I'll show you how to make it again if you need a quick recap. You can make these bigger by doing extra rounds where you did the increase, and I'm going to show you how to just quickly thread it on to one of these embroidery hoops. If you don't have an embroidery hoop, you can just use a big hoop of plastic or use a coat hanger. You can make it into a circle. These are really pretty as wall decorations. You can make smaller ones like the smaller coaster ones and put them into small rings and attach it around the sides if you like. You can hang some feathers or even anything you like. You can put some fringes on it. You can do anything you like to turn it into a wall hanging. I'm going to show you how to make the doily, and I'm going to show you how to mount it into a ring like this. So I've got the end of my yarn and I'm going to start with a magic knot. I'm going to wrap the yarn around my hand. I've got the tail end here. It's basically a big slip knot that we're going to make. Just pull that yarn through, catch your working yarn, and you've got like this little loose loop. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2 and 3. Now you can chain 4 and then just slip stitch it to make a ring. Now we're going to put 26 treble crochets into this loop, so that chain counts as number 1. So you're going to do 26. So that's 2, 3. So I've got one more to put in to my magic ring, and that makes 30. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tail end and just pull it in tight. Pull it in. So that pulls it in. You won't get it in as tight as your little cup one because the cup one only has 20. So I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that chain of 3 to close that round. So that's my first round done. I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to make these little clusters. We're going to make these little clusters around your little circle. You should have 15. You should end up with 15 of these little clusters. So that treble crochet counts as your first stitch. You're going to yarn over and go in to the next stitch and do a treble crochet. So keep that loop there. You're going to yarn over and come through that loop. So now you're going to chain 2, 1 and 2. Into the next stitch you're going to do your treble crochet. Keep the stitch on your hook, then do a treble crochet into the next stitch. So you've now got 3 loops on your hook and you've got your little cluster there. Yarn over and come through those 3 loops, and that makes a little cluster. I'm going to chain 2 and do the same with the next 2 stitches. So do a treble crochet, keep the stitch on your hook, yarn over and do the next one. You've got 3 loops on your hook, pull through those 3 loops and chain 2, 1, 2, and do the same to the next 2 stitches. So treble crochet, keep it on your hook, into the next stitch, do a treble crochet, yarn over and pull through, then chain 2. You're going to do that all the way along, and you should end up with 15 of these clusters. So that's 1, into the next stitch, join them together, chain 2, into the next stitch. So I'm just going to finish my last cluster. I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, get some more yarn out of this little ball. So I've done my chain 2. So this chain of 3 that we started with, count 1, 2, 3 stitches, and we're going to slip stitch in to there, and you've got this lovely little wheel. That's round 2 done. What we're going to do now is we're going to slip stitch, pull your stitch up, and we're going to slip stitch over into that space. You're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to do double clusters into each of these spaces. Here you've only got one cluster. Now we're going to do a double V cluster. That counts as your first treble crochet. So yarn over and go into that space and pull through. You're going to pull through those 2, chain 2. So we've got our chain stitch on the hook. We're going to yarn over and go back into that space and do a treble crochet. Now keep the stitch on your hook, yarn over and do another treble crochet. Keep the stitch on there, yarn over and pull through those 3 loops. You're going to chain 1 and move to the next space and do that double cluster. Here we only done 1 cluster. In these spaces we're going to do 2. So we've done our chain 1. So into here, do a treble crochet, keep it on the hook, into the chain space. So we've got 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through, chain 2 and do another cluster. Got 3 loops, yarn over and pull through those 3, chain 1 to move over to the next space, and do your double cluster, 1 treble crochet and your other one, keep them on the hook, yarn over and through the 3 loops and chain 2 and do your next cluster, 1 and 2 into that space, pull through, chain 1 and move to the next cluster. So you're going to do that all the way around. So I've nearly finished my last cluster. I've got my chain 2 and the last part of that little V cluster to do. Got my 3 loops, yarn over and come through, chain 1. Now I'm going to find my chain of 3 that I started the round with and count 1, 2, 3 stitches. So I'm going to go in to that 3rd stitch in the chain and slip stitch. So there we go. What we're going to do now is, in between each of these ones, we're going to do another round of these V stitches. Because it's for a plate, it needs to be a little bit bigger than that one. So this one is this size. So your plate one is going to be a little bit bigger, just big enough to sit a plate on the top of it. Doesn't need to be a great big circle. So I'm going to go into the next stitch and slip stitch. It's a little further over, and into here, pull my stitch up so that you can get over there without making it too tight. And I'm going to go into there, so I'm in between my V-stitch clusters. I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to do this round again, repeat this round. So into that chain space, so your first one will just have your 2 loops. I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, and into that space again, I'm going to do my 2 treble crochets together. So I've got 3 loops, yarn over and pull through, chain 1, and I'm going to move over in between the next 2 loops. Don't go into that space there, go into your next 2 loops. 1 and 2, keep them all on the hook and pull through, chain 2 and do another one into that same space, another cluster, chain 1. We're moving across in between here, do your little V stitch cluster, chain 2 in the middle and do your next 2 treble crochets. So you're going to have another round of your V stitches. I'll just pull some more yarn out my little ball here and I'll carry on around this round. So skip that space and you're going in between your V stitch. So skip that one, it belongs to that V stitch. Do treble crochet, keep it on the hook, your treble crochet, you've got 3 loops, pull through, chain 2 and do the next part of your V cluster, through there, chain 1 and move to your next cluster here. Remember, you're going into the V clusters and that's what you're getting. So I've done my last V stitch and what I'm going to do is I'm going to find that chain of 3 that we started with. That's my first cluster there, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to slip stitch into here. Now you can, if you want, do the fan round here, and this is how much bigger it is. It won't be that much bigger, so I'm going to do one more round and I'm going to show you how to make this bigger if you want to do this much bigger. So what we're going to do, we're going to slip stitch into this first V stitch. So go into that stitch there next to this one and slip stitch. Pull your stitch up a little bit so it's not too tight, and we're going to slip stitch into this cluster. So that's us in the middle of this cluster. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. So this is going to be our increase round. Yarn over and do your treble crochet. Pull the 2 of them together like that. Chain 2, just like we did down here, and do your next cluster. So that's 1 treble crochet into the same space and do your second one and pull through. You're going to do chain 1. Now you're going to skip over here to this one and then we're going to build an extra one in here. So into here, and you're going to do your V-stitch clusters. So that's 2 trebles, you've got your 3 loops, pull through, chain 2 and go in and do another cluster and pull through, chain 1. Now this time, every second stitch we're going to build an extra cluster into the space in between. So in here we're going to build an extra cluster. This will stop your doily from curling in. Chain 2 and do the other part. 1 and 2. So you've got an extra cluster in there. Chain 1 and move to this one and put your normal cluster in. Chain 2 and finish that off. So this is what you have. These are your normal clusters that you've already got. So we've done one, skipped a space, we've put our next one in here, and then we've added an extra one in. So we'll do one in here, and then we'll add an extra one in. Then we'll do one there, and add an extra one in there. So every third one we're going to add an extra one. So you've got your clusters. So we're going to do a normal cluster into the next one because we've got one in that space. And this is how you extend it. This is how you increase. So that's that one done. So we've got our 2 done in the normal place. So in here we're going to put another extra one. So our increase one goes in here. I'll do my 2 chain and my 2 trebles together. Do chain 1 and go into the next space. So we'll put 1 in this space, skip that space and put 1 in there. Then we'll put 1 in there, do that one, skip that space and do that one. So it's every third set of clusters, or in between every second set. So we're adding 1 here, we'll put 1 there, 1 there, and we'll add an extra 1 in there. We'll do a cluster in this one, a cluster in this one, and add an extra in there. So we've got that one added in between. You can see it here. You've got a cluster here, your cluster, and we've added that extra one in. So we'll do this cluster and this cluster as normal. Do my 2 chain and put my second part of that cluster in. Chain 1. We're going to move to the next space, the proper space, skip that space, into the next cluster. Chain 2, do your cluster. Chain 1. So you'll be doing your 2 clusters and add an extra one. 2 clusters and add an extra one. So we're going to add 1 in here. Chain 1, move to the next 2, so it's a cluster in here and a cluster in here, and then we'll add 1 in between. Cluster, cluster, and add 1 in there. Cluster, cluster, and then add 1. And what that's doing is it's making your doily bigger. So I'm all the way around. Now what I had to do when I done 2 and added 1, I did 2, added 1 into the space. Then I did 2 clusters, added an extra 1 into the space in between. So you can see here what I've done. I've done a cluster, then I added an extra 1 in between. A cluster, then added an extra 1 into that space. Cluster, a cluster, then I added 1, a cluster and a cluster, add 1, cluster and a cluster. So what I've had to do here was, I've had to add an extra 1 here, just to keep myself with my 3 clusters together. So don't worry if you're having to add an extra cluster in, because we did only have 15 clusters. So don't worry about it. I've added an extra 1 in here, and I'm going to slip stitch to the top of that chain of 3. If you don't add that extra 1 in there, we do have sort of like 4 together here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 there and 1 there. It's just to keep it in the round. So don't worry, you won't even notice. And there you go, that is that next round. Now the last round, we're going to do this round. Now if you don't want to do that increase round, you'll just skip to this round here. So what we're going to do is, right into where we were, we're going to do a double crochet. Just go right into that space and do a double crochet. Now in here between these two clusters we're going to build a fan. That's 6 UK treble crochets. So that's 1 and 2. We're going in between the cluster. 3, 4, 5 and 6. Into the next space you're going to do a double crochet. So in between this next cluster here you're going to build a fan. So you're doing 6 treble crochets. 1, 2, 3. Let's throw that down here out of the way. 4, 5 and 6. Double crochet into the next space. Then you'll do a fan in between the next cluster. Double crochet into the next space, fan into the cluster, double crochet into the next space, then do a fan into the cluster all the way around. So I've gone all the way around with my fan and my double crochet. So I'm going to find the double crochet that I started with and just slip stitch on to that. I'm going to pull my stitch up and cut my yarn, and just thread that through there. So to make the actual wall hanging, now this is the embroidery hoop that I have. Now it might look a little bit big, but once we've got it stretched on inside the loop, it'll be fine. So you can either take the inside loop, I'm going to take that off, just loosen it so that I can take the inside loop out. There we go. Make sure I've got enough that's going to go all the way around. I don't need my hook. I've got my darning needle, so I'm going to put my cotton onto the darning needle. Just like this. So this is the front of my little wall hanging doily that I've got. Now you can actually buy doilies already made, the old Victorian type of doilies. Now right in where that double crochet is, I'm going to turn it back to front and I'm going to stitch in my yarn just to hold it. I'm going to stitch this in, just hide it in the stitches. You won't see it because it'll be on the wall, and then go back, just to over sew it. Just holding it in place. So there we go. Turn it around the right way. Now I'm going to come up through that double crochet. In between each of my little fans I've got a double crochet. So I'm just going to weave my needle in and around the stitch. Weave it in around the stitch so you've got it like that. I'll zoom down a little bit. Then I'm going to put it around my hoop. Just put my hook, put this around the hoop and just pull it in. Now we're going to keep this all nice, at a nice sort of level. We can tighten it all in once you've got it. So into 1, 2 and into the third one. Through that third stitch I'm just going to put my yarn through, bring it around my hoop, just pop it around the hoop and then go in through this double crochet. So I'm going in through the side, I'll lift it up. Now that's my double crochet there. That's my double crochet there, and I've got as much light on this as I can. So I'm going to bring that in and I'm going to go back through to the back like that, and then around, bring the yarn around the loop. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so into the middle one, into the third one, and bring that around. You can keep it all quite loose. We'll tighten it once we get all the way around. Go around the hoop and come either side of that double crochet. Pull my yarn through. I'll make this a little bit bigger. It's a little bit fiddly, but once you get it going, so we're going round the other side of that double crochet. So we're just coming around the double crochet, go right through to the back like that, and then bring your yarn up over your hoop, and then count 1, 2, 3 stitches and catch that third stitch in that fan, and that's going to bring us around evenly. We're going to do that all the way around, and then we'll start to tighten it. We'll tighten it up so that this is all nice and neat and tightened in. So once it tightens in, I'm going to show you this. Once you tighten it, you tighten all these threads in. It's a little bit fiddly, but it's worth it. Once you tighten it and you get them all the same space, that is going to sit inside that hoop. Now once we've got it all tightened around there, it's going to tighten it all the way around. So I've got it all the way around, just in a tightness that I'm happy with. So I'm happy with the way I've got it like this, and it just shows you how that you can put doilies into these frames. Now what I'm going to do is, got my stitch around there, I'm just going to go behind these stitches with this, and then just pull that so that it's still not too tight. Move down a little bit and I'll put another stitch in, and then move down. I'm at the back of this anyway. Now this ring is a 25cm ring. I didn't know what size it was before, but it's got it written on it down here. It's got 25cm. That's how wide this ring is. I'm going to go, I've came out there, so I'm going to go across just a little bit and go behind this fan. I'm not going right through to the other side. I'm not going through to the other side. And then just come back on myself through another stitch. I'm going to cut that off. You can, if you want, leave it on and make yourself a hoop what you can do is you can hold your finger up like this and then just go through, keep that over your finger, go around there a couple of times just to make yourself a hoop. I'm going up and around and go around that side. Just wrap it around a little bit. Got myself in a mess now. There's my hoop. I'm going around there. Keep my thread on the needle. And I'm just going to stitch through there where I've done and make it like a knot. And make a knot. I'll come back through the other way. Oops. Just come through that loop and pull it tight. And that's going to make myself a little loop to hang that up. I'll just cut that. Put that there. And there we go. That's it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring my other ring back and I'm going to place it over it. I'll make sure that loop is up at that top part. Just put my ring back in there and it should all go in. I'm going to tighten up my bolt just to tighten that up inside there. It should tighten up quite far. It was tight already. That's going to tighten it in, and then look at that, that sets it off really nice with that blue ring back on. Now if you've got wooden rings, you can paint them. You can either paint them or you can, like I said, you can wrap, if you've got a lot of extra yarn left, you can wrap it all around the ring first if you want. But these ones, I got these at a car boot sale. I got them in blue and there's a set in pink and they're just plastic rings and they're really cheap. A lot of these you can get in charity shops, a lot of these embroidery rings, and if you've got wooden ones and you don't like the colour, then just paint it with acrylic paint. And look at that, it is so pretty. I'm going to get my other board up. I've got a darker board just to see what it looks like with the darker board up. There we go. There, look at that. That is so pretty. You can get them cheap in a charity shop. A lot of these embroidery hoops are quite cheap anyway on the likes of Amazon and eBay. And this one, like I said, this one is a 25cm ring. The inner ring is 25 centimeters across. You can get them any size. And look at that, just with a little doily. A little doily that I made. And even if you find some really old crochet doilies in the charity shop, you can make these really pretty wall hangings. You can add some feathers to it and turn it into a dream catcher if you like as well. It is so pretty. It really is. And it gives you another use for all your scrap yarn. So thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, and if you click on the bell icon, YouTube will tell you when I put up another tutorial. So until the next time, happy crafting, and I'll see you all again soon. I've got a smaller ring like this, and I think I might actually add the smaller one. You can put smaller ones round about it if you want, if you make quite a few in different colours, or even all the same colour. You can just glue other rings on, or with a piece of wire you can attach other rings around this one. That's a great idea too. So until the next time, happy crafting, and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.